an incident that shocked the country, and a verdict that was delivered today in this case of the gang rape of Vidya. A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Good evening. I'm Shine Jarampati. Let's take a look at your headlines.
COPE Chairman Sunil Handunetti warns of repercussions for providing false information before COPE. Incessant rains across several parts of the island prompts landslide warnings for 3 districts. Prices of a packet of rice and a cup of tea increased, under whose authority were gas prices hiked up.
The final verdict on the gang rape and murder of schoolgirl Sivaloganadan Vidya was delivered at the Jaffna High Court today.
Death sentences were handed down to 7 accused connected to the abduction, murder and gang rape of Sivaloganadan Vidya. The verdict was delivered by a 3-judge bench at the Jaffna High Court today. The bench consisted of Jaffna High Court Judge M. Ilanchelian, Trincomalee High Court Judge A. Premashankar and Vaunia High Court Judge Sashi Mahendran. The accused in the case were brought to the High Court premises this morning under heavy security, and the verdict was delivered at around 1:25 p.m. Prior to delivering the verdict, the judges granted an opportunity to the accused to speak before court. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges. As the 4th accused in the case, Mahalingam Sasidharan alias Swiss Kumar declared in court that he is not guilty. Vidya's mother fainted in court. The final verdict was delivered by the chairman of the 3-judge bench, Balendran Sashi Mahendran. The verdict notes that the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 8th accused in the case have been found guilty of the charges. Thereby, Poobalasingam Jayakumar, Poobalasingam Thavakumar, Mahalingam Sasidharan, Thilenathan Chandrahasan, Shivanesan Dushanthan, Jayanathan Kokilan and Mahalingam Sashikumar alias Swiss Kumar were sentenced to death. The 7 accused were also ordered to serve 30 years rigorous imprisonment. The 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th and 8th accused were fined 40,000 rupees, while the 4th and 9th accused were fined 70,000 rupees. Failure to pay the fines would result in an additional 4 months being added to the prison sentence. The trial at bar also ordered the 7 accused who were convicted to pay a sum of 1 million rupees each to the family of Sivaloganadan Vidya. Failure to pay this would result in 2 years being added to the prison sentence. The first suspect, Poobalasingam Indrakumar, and 7th suspect, Rupasingham Kuganandan, were freed of all charges due to the lack of evidence to prove their actions beyond reasonable doubt.
Just because these people are punished, I won't get my child back. But this is a good lesson for society. I hope that such a thing never happens to another mother. I thank the justices, including Justice Ilanchelian.
This is a good message to society. The loss of Vidya is an unbearable loss to her family. However, the verdict must be something to the family. This verdict warns the world of what happens when you engage in such actions. Those who supported Swiss Kumar to escape or are connected to this in other ways must also be punished. There are 2 to 3 sides to this case. It is my legal opinion that the verdict is wrong. The verdict was delivered by 3 justices. That is why I will be appealing this verdict.
We were able to get a verdict in 28 months because it was heard before a 3-judge bench. 4 months after the murder of Vidya, a 4-year-old girl named Seya was murdered in Devulapitiya. The case was not being heard properly. We hope that at least now they consider creating a special court to prosecute cases related to abuse of children. There is a female Minister of Justice today, so it might be easier for her to understand these concerns.
After 2 years and 4 months, the final verdict of Sivaloganadan Vidya's court case was given at the Jaffna High Court today. We here at Newsfirst have been closely following this story. Reporting from the courts complex in Jaffna for the Newsfirst team, I'm Azra Hassan.
On the 14th of May 2015, the body of Sivaloganadan Vidya was discovered along the road that she used to travel to school. 3 suspects were arrested on the same day. 3 days after the remains were buried, a further 5 suspects were arrested, and reports emerged that there were attempts to free a suspect with the alias Swiss Kumar. On the 5th of May this year, a decision was reached to appoint a 3-judge bench to hear the case. The bench, or the trial at bar, was appointed on the 23rd of May, and during the first hearing on the 28th of June, several facts came to light. One of the most startling revelations was that a Swiss mafia outfit had entered into an agreement with Swiss Kumar to create a sex tape involving an Asian girl. Deputy Solicitor General Dappula de Oliveira noted in court that 8 others had been involved in the incident along with Swiss Kumar. On the 13th of this month, the process of questioning the suspects came to an end. The effective and efficacious working of the justice system in dealing with cases of this nature is truly commendable. Historical cases such as that of Premavati Manamperi and Rita Jones are examples of such commendable verdicts. The accused attempted to wriggle out of numerous loopholes. However, all these attempts were prevented, and the verdict delivered by the bench will go down in history. Over the past few months, Jaffna High Court Judge M. Ilanchelian, Trincomalee High Court Judge A. Premashankar, and Vaunia High Court Judge Shashi Mahendran, as well as the CID and Attorney General's Department, worked tirelessly to ensure justice prevailed. Justice Ilanchelian's statement in court today revealed that it took over 2 years for justice to be served due to the actions of a few police officers, including former DIG Lalit Jayasinghe. Among other facts, Judge Ilanchelian's statement in court today revealed that it took over 2 years for justice to be served due to actions of a few police officers, including former senior DIG Lalit Jayasinghe.
This provides a clear signal that there are those even in this government who would influence investigations into just like influence was exerted back then in relation to cases of fraud, kidnapping, assault and murder. This is a serious issue. We have been saying that investigations into incidents that occurred during the Mahinda Rajapaksa era are being delayed. We have been saying these investigations into fraud committed by this government is also being delayed. This raises doubts as to whether there are high-ranking people influencing these cases. The bond scam, the Central Expressway are some of the major issues that members of the government are attempting to sweep under the carpet. The judge's statement makes it clear that there is influence at the highest level.
President Maithripala Sirisena says the law will be enforced on people involved in corruption, fraud or irregularities, disregarding party allegiances.
President Maithripala Sirisena declared open the Badulla, Haliyala and Alla integrated water supply project today. The project was built at a cost of 11.8 billion rupees and was funded by the governments of Sri Lanka and the United States. The water supply project will provide safe drinking water for people in 42 Grama Niladhara divisions in the respective areas. The project will treat and release 15,000 cubic meters of water on a daily basis through the dam built across the Badulla Oya in Demodara. The president declared open the new car park complex built in the Badulla town as well. We have political stability in the country, even if there is criticism against government. We proved it last week when the government secured a 2/3 majority in parliament. International support is required for political stability in the government. The international community calls for political stability in the country to give us development aid, which is extremely paramount. When that victory was achieved in parliament, I was attending the United Nations General Assembly, holding talks with the Secretary General, the Human Rights Commission and other world leaders. We won their hearts. The international community had faith in us. There is political stability in the country and that gives way for development. There was a time when people were afraid to speak over the telephone due to the fear of wiretapping. There was a time when people lived in their homes with the fear of being abducted. We have changed that era. The government works with a policy to penalize all the wrongdoers, casting aside their political affiliations. I have no issue if they are from the UNP, the SLFP or any other political party.
LTL Holdings or Lanka Transformers claim there is no requirement for it to be audited by the Auditor General. A majority of the shares of LTL are being held by the Ceylon Electricity Board. The LTL has exploited a flaw in the singular translation of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution to evade being audited by the Auditor General.
The objective of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was to broaden the scope of the Auditor General's functions. However, quoting sections of the English and Sinhala translations of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution on auditing corporations, LTL Holdings in a letter to the Auditor General and the Ceylon Electricity Board claims it does not see any need to be audited by the Auditor General. According to the English translation of Article 36(1) of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, the Auditor General shall audit all companies registered or deemed to be registered under the Companies Act No. 7 of 2007 in which the government or a public corporation or local authority holds 50% or more of the shares of that company, including the accounts thereof. LTL notes the Sinhala text reference made to companies in which the government or a company wholly owned by the government or a local authority holds more than 50% of its shares should comply with the provisions. LTL says based on this it seems to indicate that the provisions would not be applicable to LTL and there is no need for it to be audited. It appears there are no provisions to audit companies of which more than 50% is owned by public corporations. However, it is clear the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was introduced for the Auditor General to audit the companies that are subsidiaries of public corporations and have a stake of and more than 50%. These have been discussed in Parliament and published in the Hansard. A group is attempting to use a technical flaw in the Sinhala translation to raise a legal point that a company wholly owned by the government or a local authority holds more than 50% of its shares should comply with the provisions. Sri Lanka Audit Services Association notes the desire in Parliament was that all companies in which the government or a public corporation or local authority holds 50% or more of the shares of that company must be audited by the Auditor General. The 19th Amendment to the Constitution paved the way for the scope of the Auditor General to be broadened and his role made clear. Though the English translation notes all companies in which the government or a public corporation or local authority holds 50% or more of the shares of that company must be audited, the Sinhala translation refers to only more than 50%. There is an issue here. The easiest way to resolve this confusion is, whenever there is a company which is more than 50% owned by a public corporation, the Parliament has the power to vest the audit task on the Auditor General. Amendment of Article 154(3) of the Constitution says the Auditor General must perform the task vested on him by Parliament. The issue can be resolved in Parliament when it comes to auditing any company.
Another protest against the Central Expressway took place today. The supply route from Damboka to Gattuana on the Central Expressway was obstructed by locals from the Henamulla area since last night. They claim the 8.5 kilometer road was said to be constructed on pillars but is now being done on the ground level. This section comes under phase 2 of the Central Expressway. Due to public protests, the work on this section of road has been suspended.
The construction must be done in an environment-friendly manner. A fair compensation must be given to the locals. There are many who were denied compensation. This road will be blocked using boulders until a proper solution is given. This is our last resort. These are the consequences of constructing expressways by filling lands without even obtaining an environment impact assessment report.
Residents of several villages in Batiklo are made to cross a river over a tree trunk as the authorities have failed to construct them a proper bridge for a number of years.
The residents of Akurana, Minimittaveli, Uttuchene and Vadamunai villages have to cross this river to reach the Ottamavadi village on the other side. The trunk of a tree has been laid across the river for commuters to travel on. If not, they will have to travel over 40 kilometers to reach their destination. If this bridge is constructed in addition to being safe for these villagers to travel the journey, will be limited to only 15 kilometers instead of 40. The area residents state that their numerous pleas fell on deaf ears as the authorities have still been unable to construct a proper bridge across the river.
Temple Trees hosted a religious event today. The event was organized to invoke blessings on the country with the participation of 1,000 monks. The Prime Minister and several ministers attended the religious ceremony.
The Association of Sri Lanka Restaurant Owners have decided to increase the price of a lunch packet and a cup of tea following the price hike imposed on a domestic LP gas cylinder.
දැන් පොල් ගෙඩිය රුපියල් 9500ක් කියලා නම් පොල් ගෙඩියෙන් රුපියල් 20ක් අතන රජයට යන්න එපා. ඒ කියන්නේත් නෑනේ.
If the price of a coconut is now 95 rupees to 100 rupees, then 20 rupees has to go to the government. But that does not happen. Shop owners obtain coconuts for a price of 35 rupees each and they keep a profit of 50 to 60 rupees when selling a coconut. The government does not have a backbone to regulate it. The government would issue a stipulated price for coconuts which will be in effect for only 2 months. The Consumer Affairs Authority promotes it widely and the stipulated price will be gazetted, but after 3 to 4 weeks it will be removed. When this happens, traders sell their goods for different prices. The shop owner charges one price, the shop owner's wife charges another price, and the shop owner's daughter and son charge a different price. Prior to constitutional reforms, the necessary regulation should be established so that people can eat 3 meals a day without worry. This has not been done. After gas prices were increased by 110 rupees, you may wonder why we have had to increase the price of a lunch packet by 10 rupees. The alternative for lunch sheets are priced at 3, 4 and 7 rupees. Look, this is the new lunch sheet. The previous lunch sheet they said was toxic, but where does it say whether this lunch sheet is toxic or not? Where is the certification of the Central Environmental Authority? Try smelling this. It is unbearable to the nose. So who is paying for this? India? We addressed a letter to the Consumer Affairs Authority. Wheat, flour and cement have been declared as essential items. I would like to ask the Consumer Affairs Authority, has the lunch packet and a cup of tea in this country been made as essential items? No. Why? 20 million people eat this. A person can lay cement later. But first he has to eat, doesn't he? So we have decided on a maximum price. A price of a cup of tea will be 20 rupees. This cup of tea has to contain a tea bag, not the dusty and other kinds. If this procedure is not followed, please contact us on 071 313 0345. We will do what the Consumer Affairs Authority cannot do. We will teach that hotel how to use a tea bag the hard way or the easy way. The price of a lunch packet, which will consist of 3 vegetables and a piece of fish, should be sold at 130 rupees. Reports have surfaced. Even though the Cabinet of Ministers discussed to bring down the price of a domestic gas cylinder, an agreement had not been reached. However, the Consumer Affairs Authority later approved the price hike. It was decided by the Cost of Living Committee. Then it was moved to the Cabinet. It was increased by 110 rupees. When we were elected, we reduced it by 575 rupees. We only increased 110 rupees. The people have a benefit of 465 rupees. The price of gas is not decided by the country. The global gas prices have increased. We increased by 8%. We do not produce gas. We import gas, and if the supply stops, it affects the local consumers. The person who was affected by the price increase for coconut is more affected by the increase in domestic gas prices. The Consumer Affairs Authority has put a noose around the consumer's neck and given the corporation to increase gas prices. This is a serious issue. Therefore, Cabinet must discuss this even further. We are more attentive to know if a decision was taken or not, and we will raise this in Parliament. Chairman of COPE, MP Sunil Handunetti says law can be enforced on people who gave false evidence to mislead the Committee on Public Enterprises. Anyone appearing before COPE or any other legislative committee gives evidence under oath. Giving evidence under an oath means the person is bound to produce true facts. In relation to the central bank treasury bond issue, if any official from the central bank or an organization involved had given false information to COPE, it would be termed as giving information against public interest. In this instance, if what was said wasn't true, the Parliament can take legal action on the advice of the Attorney General. People from the central bank can be summoned before Parliament as well. We can raise questions at that point. Once the report from the Presidential Commission of Inquiry on the bond issue is released, it must contain the names of all who provided false information to Parliament. We will take action on that in the future.
The Department of Meteorology warns that heavy rains could be expected in a number of areas, including the western and Sabragamur provinces. Duty meteorologist Buddhika Bandaratna notes that the rains would be accompanied by heavy winds.
A mound of earth collapsed onto the Kalutura South Labour Office following heavy rains. Our correspondent reported this hampered operations at the office throughout the day. Floodwaters invaded the Molligoda Primary School, bringing activities to a standstill. A tree uprooted in Ward Place today, hampering vehicular movement for several hours. Another tree uprooted on the Perahara Mawata in Gangarama. A tree uprooted near the public library in Colombo, damaging a light post at the Vihara Mahadevi Park. Heavy mist was reported in Hatton, Norelia and other surrounding areas today. As rains are experienced from time to time, police request motorists to exercise caution when driving under these conditions. One spill gate of the Kukuleganga Reservoir was opened this morning following heavy rainfall experienced in Kalutara. 23 cubic meters of water is released per second from the reservoir.
An event to launch the project History of ICT Sri Lanka was held at the Institute of Policy Studies yesterday. The initiative, which is a website, contains personal reflections and memories of those whose achievements were milestones in the development of ICT in Sri Lanka, dating back to the 1960s up to 2013. The launch was attended by a group of experts in the field of information communication technology, including Professor Mohan Munasinghe, the first chairman of the Computer and Information Technology Council of Sri Lanka, or SINTEC, which was established in 1984.
Let's look at the underlying strategic principles of 1982, and I argue that they are still relevant today. We need to define the vision for Sri Lanka and then adapt ICT policy to reach that goal. So we don't need to allow technological trends to blind us and shape our development policy. It's the other way around. Okay? We have to adapt the technology to suit our own needs. The government in that time, we thought, was defining the national interest and providing an enabling policy framework. I think this should also be continue into the future. Okay, not to control, but to enable. You as ICT professionals have a very key role to play in good governance, because governance is not the sole preserve of the state. Okay, in fact, very often the state fails in good governance. But it doesn't matter. All states are not perfect. Speak out, demand higher standards.
In a bid to curb the disasters caused owing to climate change, the National Building Research Organisation has made a request to the Norwegian Geotechnical Institute to aid Sri Lanka in this drive. The Norwegian ambassador to Sri Lanka visited the project activities in Matale and held discussions with relevant officials.
In the expanded program, the National Building Research Organisation requests Norway to perform hands-on work such as advanced mapping and instrumentation of landslides so that they can tackle such weather-related disasters. The Norwegian Geotechnical Institute will prepare manuals and guidelines in a bid to reduce the risk of lives and property.
This particular project, I think, is addressing some of the needs in Sri Lanka by the fact that although we have had landslides for many years, that this has increased because of most likely the climate change is affecting the number of landslides. So it's very important to map some of the most vulnerable areas, and that's where this cooperation comes in. And so you can give advice to the government on where to locate people, where it is safe to live. And we have already supported it with about 150 million rupees. and we are now discussing to increase it so we can extend the program until 2020, hoping that the total amount will be then 150 plus more, adding up to maybe 216 million rupees.
An event to mark World Tourism Day 2017 was held in Colombo today. World Tourism Day, which is celebrated by the UN World Tourism Organization on the 27th of September every year, is being celebrated this year under the theme Sustainable Tourism, a Tool for Development.
The event, organised by the Ministry of Tourism and Christian Religious Affairs and the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, was held at the Arcade Independence Square in Colombo and was inaugurated by Subject Minister John Amaratunga.
While countries and regions with tourism-driven economies have become increasingly concerned with the environment as well as the socio-cultural problems associated with ad hoc tourism, there is now agreement on the need to promote sustainable tourism development to minimize environmental impact and maximize socio-economic benefits. While Sri Lanka welcomes the big boys in the global industry, we are mindful that it should not be at the expenses of the small man and that lives of the industry.
Sustainable tourism can be defined as tourism that takes full account of its current and future economic, social and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment and host communities.
In more local news, pregnant mothers who arrive at the clinic at the Balangoda Rassagala Family Health Officer's office have to undergo many hardships due to the lack of facilities. The Rassagala Rural Hospital was relocated as there was a landslide threat 8 months ago. The Public Health Officer's office was relocated to a building belonging to the Balangoda cooperatives. As there isn't adequate space in the building, the pregnant mothers who arrived there for the clinic have been forced to suffer in the rain.
Emona Centre Kosovo, a long-standing customer of A.F. Jones Exporters Ceylon Private Limited, a subsidiary of the Capital Maharaj Organisation Limited, was the recipient of an award at BID's International Staff Quality Convention held in Geneva recently. The award was handed over in recognition of the achievements of the Emona Centre in the leadership recognition programs created to promote the principles of quality culture. Agron Mikholovic, the owner and general director of the Emona Centre, received the award.
Owner and General Director from Kosovo, receiving the International Star Award for Quality here in Geneva 2017.
Well, we leave you tonight with the views expressed by the President in Badulla today. I'm Shahin Jurampati.
I'm Mahina Bongso. Good night.
We have political stability in the country, even if there is criticism against government. We proved it last week when the government secured a two-thirds majority in parliament. International support is required for political stability in the government. The international community calls for political stability in the country to give us development aid, which is extremely paramount. When that victory was achieved in Parliament, I was attending the United Nations General Assembly, holding talks with the Secretary General, the Human Rights Commission and other world leaders. We won their hearts. The international community had faith in us. There is political stability in the country and that gives way for development. There was a time when people were afraid to speak over the telephone due to the fear of wiretapping. There was a time when people lived in their homes with the fear of being abducted. We have changed that era. The government works with a policy to penalize all the wrongdoers, casting aside their political affiliations. I have no issue if they are from the UNP, the SLFP or any other political party.